The town of Everbrook always felt like a place frozen in time, especially at night. The streetlights would cast these long, lonely shadows, and the only sound was the hum of crickets. I remember that night so clearly, walking home from my late shift at the diner, watching my breath turn to mist in the cold air. Everything felt normal, almost too normal. That's when things started to unravel. Passing by the old, forgotten post office, a flicker of something out of place caught my eye. Half buried in a snowdrift was a letter. It looked ancient, the paper yellowed and brittle. But what made my blood run cold was the handwriting on the front. My name, Emma Carter. And underneath it, one word, urgent. My hands shook as I tore it open. The message inside was short, cryptic, and terrifying. Just 5 words, "Don't go home tonight." I spun around, my heart hammering against my ribs. The street was empty, utterly silent. It had to be a prank, right? Some stupid joke from one of the kids in town. But a primal instinct, a voice deep inside me, was screaming. It wasn't a joke, it was a warning. And that voice was telling me to run. So I did. I didn't know where I was going, just away from my street, away from my home. Then he appeared. Out of the shadows at the corner of Maple and Elm, a figure emerged. A man in a long, dark coat, his face hidden by the brim of a hat. His steps were slow, deliberate, echoing in the dead quiet of the night. He stopped a few feet away and spoke my name. Emma? His voice was rough like gravel and completely unfamiliar. How do you know my name? I stammered, backing away. He took a step closer, into the light. I wrote the letter, he said, his eyes serious. And I'm here to help you survive the night. Before I could process his words, he pointed down the street towards my house, or where my house should be. It was just a dark shape against the sky, all the lights out, but the front door, it was open. Just a crack, but it was wide open. A chill that had nothing to do with the cold air snaked up my spine. The stranger grabbed my arm, his grip surprisingly strong. "Don't," he warned, his voice low. "Someone's already inside." He pulled me behind a thick oak tree across the street, our breaths fogging up the space between us. Peeking through the branches, I could see into my own living room window. And he was right. There were shadows moving inside. 2 of them. They were ransacking the place, tearing through my things. Then one of them turned, and the faint light from the street caught the glint of metal on his hand. It was a ring, my late father's ring. My heart stopped. But that was impossible. My dad died 5 years ago, didn't he? The stranger must have seen the look on my face. He reached into his coat and pulled out a faded photograph. He handed it to me. My hands were trembling so badly I could barely hold it steady. In the photo, my father stood smiling, his arm around another man, a man who looked exactly like him, an identical twin. "Your father had a twin," the stranger explained softly. "He went missing the same night your father died. We all thought he was gone for good." Tears streamed down my face, hot against my frozen cheeks. The lie I had lived with for 5 years was crumbling, and the truth was so much more terrifying. We had to go in. The stranger, who I now knew was a private investigator my father had hired years ago, led the way. We slipped through the open door. The air inside was thick with the smell of dust and disturbed memories. The man with my father's ring turned around. It was him, my uncle. His eyes, so like my dad's, were filled with a deep, haunting sorrow. "I never meant to scare you, Emma," he said, his voice cracking. "I came back to finish what your father started, to protect you." But before he could explain, a roar erupted from the back of the house. The kitchen exploded in a ball of fire. Flames licked up the walls, hungry and violent. The investigator shoved me towards the door as the ceiling began to groan. We stumbled out into the freezing night, just as the whole house was engulfed in a torrent of fire, swallowing the past, the secrets, and the man who looked like my father. He was gone, leaving only his ring behind, lying in the snow. By morning the fire was out. All that remained of my home was a smoking pile of ash under a pale pink sunrise. I stood there, clutching the ring in my hand. That one night had taken everything I ever knew, my home, my history, the comfortable lies I'd lived with. But in the wreckage, it had also given me something back, the truth. It was a brutal, heartbreaking truth, but it was mine. It was, without a doubt, the night that changed everything. Thank you for joining me on this journey. If you were as captivated by this story as I was, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more tales from the shadows. See you next time.